Hey, my name is Samar. I also go by Sam or First Time Panner. Any of those you want to call me, you can. This will be an update from my No Pan Left Behind series, and I am filming this a few days early because I was able to hit my goal on everything before the month ended. And I'm also going to be traveling at the end of next month, so I want to get a head start on all of my videos already, because you know how I am with my filming schedule and uploading schedule. I'm sure you already know what this is, so I'm gonna skip like the general intro I always do, but I'll leave the project playlist in the description box and I'll link it at the end of the video in case you haven't seen this before. Go ahead and binge those videos before you watch this. I'm also very tired. I've been trying to get a nap in for 2 days and it hasn't happened, so I'm a little low energy, but I'm gonna power through because I want to update this video. I had 5 palettes that I was working on for July. They were the One Size Quad, the Golden Cocoa Quad, the Morphe 2 Malibu Quint, the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette, the Sephora I Love palette in the shade Medium Cool, or like the Color Story Medium Cool, and then Dose of Colors Baked Browns 2. I really enjoyed this month of eyeshadows, and none of them were super huge palettes, so it was pretty easy to get through, which is why I'm filming this early. But yeah, I really liked this month, probably because this is the first month where I had all neutral palettes. I do love color, but neutral is just so much easier. So yeah, it was more like an easy breezy month as far as eyeshadows, and I got to focus a lot more on my lip products, which if I haven't uploaded my makeup recap for July, I don't want to spoil anything, but it was a very good month for lip products. I'm going to start with the Morphe 2 Malibu, and yeah, I really do love this palette. I mentioned that in my eyeshadow palette tournament, this went up against my Lorac Frosted Sequoia palette. It didn't win, but this is a really pretty palette. It's good quality. I didn't have any issues with any of them. I did end up using all the colors in the same look, but it was such a beautiful look that I did end up getting when I used all these colors together. And then I also did use my Urban Decay eyeliner in the shade Lucky, the like orange copper one also. So I used that in combination with this palette, and it was like one of my favorite looks I did the entire month. So I am really glad that I have this palette. I kind of a little bit regretted buying this. It was definitely an impulse purchase because I was just in a Morphe store one day picking up something else, and I had money in my pocket, and this looked like a color story that at the time, like 2 years ago when I bought this, I thought I would have really liked, and I still do, but I said this all in my last video too, or like my last update, I was definitely way more into warm tones like on a regular basis than I am now. So this was a very pleasant surprise to really end up loving this as much as I did, and I'm very glad I have this palette, and I'm glad I discovered that I love it. And it was really nice to use in the summer, so yeah, that was the Morphe 2 Malibu. Next is my I Love palette from Sephora. I love this so much. I'll even swatch the shade that I ended up really loving from this palette. It's the like deepest, it's not that deep, but it's the deepest metallic in this palette. It is so pretty. It actually kind of looks a little bit like the metallic that's on my eyes right now, but that's from a different palette. But it is reminiscent of one of my most favorite shades in my entire collection, which is Candlelight from the Sigma Ambiance palette, and you've definitely heard me talk about that one a lot. I would say the only difference is that Candlelight, what really makes it special is the like glitter, like the ethereal glitter running throughout, and this doesn't have that, but it's still really pretty. It's the same like finish and the same tone and depth, so I of course really loved it. And then just in general, this palette was such good quality, as pretty much all Sephora, at least like I've never tried their holiday palettes, but every other Sephora palette I've ever tried has been amazing quality, and this was no different. I kind of like in the back of my mind was not expecting it to be that great, because when you just look at it, it looks so bland and so blah. This was also a bit of an impulse purchase for me because I bought it when it was on clearance, and I think I just threw this in my cart to get free shipping. These 3 mattes actually do look very different. This one, by the way, so deep and pigmented, like you just have to barely tap your brush in once, and I'm not even kidding, literally just tap your brush in once, you have enough to cover your entire eye. And it's like an opaque color. It sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. I had to learn that the hard way. But yeah, the colors are very different in tone. Like it really is a lighter, medium, and a deep. I also really love this shade as an inner corner highlight. This is what it looks like right here. It's really pretty, and you should be seeing the looks on the screen, but I really enjoyed the 2 looks that I did with this palette, and I'm so glad I have this. This would be a great palette to travel with, so potentially I'll bring this with me in some of my travels that are coming up soon. We have another single-use palette, which was my One Size Golden Cocoa Quad, and this pretty much, I use this in the exact way I thought. All in one use, like a transition shade, outer corner shade, lid shade, inner corner, easy as that. And of course I got a really beautiful but simple and quick look, and yeah, everything blended out perfectly. The tones mesh well together, and I'm very satisfied with this palette. Last is the palette that I have in my eyes right now, and that's the Supreme Nudes palette from Artist Couture. This is what it looks like. I'll have a picture of what I'm wearing right now, but it is basically, I set my eyeshadow primer with this shade Nudist. It looks a little bit deeper than it actually is in reality. Then I used this shade Mink in my outer corner, and honestly this is something that I did want to bring up. I was very disappointed in this shade. It was incredibly patchy and hard to blend, and in some parts it just wouldn't blend at all. Like I had to use this shade Transcend to try to blend things out, like on just the edges of everything, but this was just really difficult. And like I even set my eyeshadow primer, as I said, and it was just like very patchy and not really easy to work with, so I really didn't like that. And it's weird because that definitely did not happen the first time I tested out this eyeshadow palette. I was really happy with the quality. I've even been saying in like every video that I mentioned this eyeshadow palette up until this one, I've been saying the quality is so good, blah blah blah, like there's not one dud shade. I'm going to have to use this more in like the upcoming days. I feel like I'm going to put this to the test a few more times. Maybe it just happened to be one specific thing I did, or some sort of conditions, because this didn't happen the first time I used it, but this was like a really terrible experience today, and that's concerning because it's the only deep shade in the palette. But anyway, as I said, I used Transcend and blend everything out, and then I put the shade Bronziana. I hate that name, but Bronziana is all over my lid. And again, this is another, as I said, this is another shade that is reminiscent of Candlelight. This is what it looks like. I love it so much. It is just like warmer tone than Candlelight, but it does have that same depth and same kind of like, it's just the warmer tone version without the glitter, I would say. Yeah, other than that, that one shade that caused me trouble, I really had a great time using this palette. I love the shade Supreme, which is this green. I mean, of course, I just love green in general, but this one is so pretty. This is what it looks like, and then it does have, it looks like some gold like glitter running through it, and I think pretty much every time I've used that green, I've also used the like yellow gold shade Lavish like in combination with it, because I think these two look so pretty together. I'll put a little bit of it on top of the green just so you can see what it looks like, and like they just blend so seamlessly together. Since I swatched every other metallic shade, this is the last one, Opulence. It's a very warm gold. It's this shade in the palette. It almost looks orange in the swatch, but it is more of gold. I did enjoy using this palette. I'm really glad I have it. And I feel like the looks that you can do, or that I did with this palette, pretty straightforward. It was easy in my mind, kind of like I always plan ahead the looks that I want to do so that I make sure I'm not leaving anything out when I do finally complete the palette. And it was just really easy to plan out my looks with this palette. I feel like the shades go very well together. The only thing that's missing from this palette is an inner corner highlight, but other than that, I feel like the color story is complete. And I'm hoping that the more times I use the dark brown in this palette, the more I'll like prove whatever I did today wrong, because I'm really hoping that shade is not like either going bad or like always has been bad. I don't know. Now I've got my August lineup. It's just like a hodgepodge. I actually just last minute, like a day or two ago, moved things around. So this was not going to be like the group of palettes I was gonna use for August, but here we are. I moved things around for travel purposes because I will be traveling in August. But first up, one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection, the Dose of Colors She's a 10 palette. I talk about Dose of Colors all the time because it's my favorite eyeshadow brand and just one of my favorite brands in general. Like, they make pretty much my favorite foundation, and I'm rambling about stuff that doesn't need to be talked about right now. So here's the palette. Yeah, I love this so much. It is such, oh, now I'm scared. If I say it's such good quality and then I end up finding a dead shade, I'm gonna be embarrassed again. I love all of the shades in here, even the gray, which I'll get to in a bit. I also love the shade Red Velvet. It is so pretty. This is what it looks like. It's just so pretty for like an earthy red shade, and just like in general, like this palette is so pretty. I'm swatching everything because I can't decide what my favorite shade is. But yeah, look at how beautiful these are. They're so stunning, and I'm really excited to use this palette. I won't talk about it too much because I talk about it all the time, but I'm just happy to be able to use this. Okay, I just knocked everything over twice, so I'm sure we've shifted. Next we have the Natasha Denona Baby Bronze palette, and I've never used this before. This was a regret purchase for sure. I've talked about this many times, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but not only do I not support Natasha Denona anymore, I don't really like her formula, but it was like an impulse purchase from the Sephora sale before I decided I wasn't going to be buying from her anymore. So yeah, I have this and I need to use it at some point. Also, the packaging literally broke the first time I opened it. One of the hinges, like the plastic around the hinges, broke off. So for a like luxury product, I was kind of PO'd about that. This is what the palette looks like, and that's it. Next I have my Sephora Southwest Sunrise palette, which is the first palette I ever bought. So this does have a special place in my heart, at least for my standards and like the general quality of eyeshadow these days. This palette is not a standout, and I'm specifically talking about the like metallic shades in here, especially because one of them is supposed to be a duochrome blue brown, which is why I bought the palette, but it doesn't really show up. So I still find ways to use this and make it work, but it's not like, as I said, it's not a standout palette for me. But I do like the neutral in here, and I like this metallic inner corner shade. Those are my favorite shades in the palette. Next we have the Sigma Ivy palette, and this also was in my I just very recently talked about this because it was in my palette tournament, like part 1. I'll have that linked in the description box. Yeah, this isn't my favorite palette in my entire collection. It's like my least favorite Sigma palette, but I still do like it because the formula is great. This is one of the best performing brown mattes in my entire collection, and this is the only navy blue or like tealish navy blue shade that I have in my collection. This shade Mead is what I use to mix with the gray shade in my Dose of Color She's a 10 palette, because I don't use a gray on its own ever, and I don't use like a super light pink like this on its own ever, but when I mix them it turns into a really pretty mauve shade that I love. So I purposefully put these in the same month because I do want to use them together that way. And then the last palette is my Dose of Colors Baked Browns 1 palette. So 2 Dose of Colors palettes in 1 month. What a treat. This is what this palette looks like, and I have barely ever used this palette. I think I've used like 1, maybe 2 shades like once, and then I just never picked up this palette again. It's at the time it was a nice palette to have because if I ever needed, like clearly I almost never did because I almost never used it, but if I needed a brown then I could always reach into this palette. But at this point, when I have pretty much everything in palettes that I reach for all the time anyway, I don't need this as much. And then I just realized I didn't talk about the Baked Browns too, which was in my July rotation, but just real quick, that was really nice to use. And I was going to say that the browns that are in that palette are like way more up my alley. This shade is too light for me even as a setting, like eyeshadow primer setting shade. And then this is a shade that I already have in so many other palettes that I would much prefer to use those because I open up those palettes more, so I don't really think to use this one. And then I feel like these are just 2 different warm toned brown transition shades. So even though I like this palette and I don't regret purchasing it, it's not as useful as the Baked Browns 2 or something else, like even my Milani all matte brown palette, which has like just an array of different tone neutral browns. I knocked everything over for a 3rd time. I'm on a roll today. I probably shouldn't have filmed. Probably should have just taken a nap. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching if you did watch. I don't blame anyone who clicked off because this was probably a train wreck. Editing me is probably like embarrassed. But yeah, wish me luck for August. Even though I feel like none of these palettes will be difficult to use, I do also have my project level up and I have eyeshadows and other projects, so you know the pressure is on a little bit, especially as we're nearing the end of the year. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video and I hope you have a great day today. Bye.